Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is the Assembly Public Safety Committee meeting. It is 11:10 on January 5th. Welcome, everyone. And if you wouldn't mind doing roll, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, Ms. Kennedy. Mr. Garcia.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Getting a lot of feedback here long though.
Present.
Mr. Constant.
Here.
Mr. Dunbar.
Here.
Ms. Zolotel. Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Present.
Mr. Weddleton.
Here.
Ms. Allard. Ms. LaFrance. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And Ms. Zolotel and Ms. Kennedy both let me know in advance that they were not able to attend this meeting today because of a prior conflict commitment. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. If we could post the agenda up real quick. I just want to walk through it real quick, and then we'll hand it over to the Anchorage Police Department. I want to just make sure everybody's aware of what we're going to try to do today. All right, can we zoom in a little bit on it? There we go. My eyes need some bigger font. There we go. All right, so as normal today, we are going to hear updates from the Anchorage Police Department, the Anchorage Fire Department, and the Law Department. As you can see, there are a number of items on the agenda today. So we'll get through, hopefully we'll get through all of it. As always, if you have, if members have questions, please put yourself in the chat in the queue, and speakers, if you could, pause occasionally to squeeze in questions and comments from members. And then when we get towards the end, there'll be an opportunity for comment as well. And just want to remind folks to mute your line. We definitely are hearing some background noise from some folks. All right, so with that, and then just one other point, we did receive on the item of panhandling signs, we did receive an email from the Ombudsman, Daryl Hess, with some documents, and then I distributed that. I had folks to distribute that to members of the committee. So hopefully if you can check your email, you will find it in there. All right, so with that, I'll hand it over.
Chair, briefly, this is Mr. Constant. Can we make sure that gets published to the website as well?
Sure, let's do that as well. Kyan, if you could put that up on the website so folks could have access to both the email explanation and also the documents that that Mr. Hess provided for us. That would be really helpful. Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Suzanne. I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, great. We've been joined by Member LaFrance at 11:13. All right, Chief McCoy, you're up.
Okay, so good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. So I'm Chief McCoy, and I'm going to go through the APD update for you today. First up was the downtown partnership discussion. And so, we took part in that, and we are very aware of the concerns that were expressed by the downtown partnership relating to crime being underreported to APD and the effect that may have on our staffing decisions. So first of all, I'm pleased that that's been corrected, and calls are now going to be primarily sent to APD to be triaged and addressed. And we're committed to ensuring that downtown is safe and vibrant. And with that, I'm confident that we have the adequate resources staffed downtown. And I'll kind of go through some of the things that we've done downtown that gives me that confidence. So in addition to our regularly assigned beat officers to the downtown district, we, as you all know, moved our headquarters back downtown, which has greatly increased our visibility and the presence of police officers coming and going at all hours during the day and night, and just being available in the downtown corridor just from the mere fact that that's where we're operating out of daily. And so we've also reinstituted our foot patrols downtown, and during the summer we have bicycle patrols. We've also assigned an officer to the front counter of headquarters to assist citizens who walk in for assistance. That's something new that we incorporated when we moved back downtown. We never had that front desk manned at our old station by an actual police officer. So that's something new that we've incorporated. Our CAP team primarily works on issues downtown, primarily related to homelessness, but a large portion of their duties are primarily utilized in downtown. And we often staff different events that are taking place downtown, such as the movie in the park or the Saturday market. And with the renewed emphasis on reporting to 311 or 911, we'll be able to, evaluate how these additional resources are impacting crime downtown. And so, really, my general assessment is that we have downtown adequately resourced at this time, and what we see are a lot of instances or problems that are quality of life related, issues related to people experiencing homelessness or mental illness. And we know as a police department, we're not going to be able to, solve those problems alone. And it's going to take a collaborative approach with our stakeholders and additional resources to really get to the root of some of those problems, those visible nagging problems that many of the downtown businesses experience. But again, we're committed to being a leader and partnering with our stakeholders to address those. And I guess I'll pause and take any questions that we have related to our situation downtown before I move on.
Thank you, Chief. And just wanted to add for the record that Member Allard is here, and she got here at 11:14. It doesn't look like there's any questions in the queue at this point, so I think you can proceed forward.
Okay, and great. And like I said, we'll be reevaluating the numbers next quarter to see, what the impact of all the calls being primarily sent directly to APD are. And again, at the end of the day, we're committed to ensuring downtown is safe and vibrant. So next up on the agenda is my retirement. So yes, I've announced I'll be retiring February 1st. And again, it's just been an honor of a lifetime to be able to serve this community for the last 27 years. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to serve in some new with some new opportunities in a slightly different capacity. And so when I retire, Deputy Chief Curl will be replacing me as the chief. And I know Deputy Chief Curl's on the line today. If he'd like to say a few words, I'll give him an opportunity to, if he'd like to do that.
Hi, this is Deputy Chief Curl. Just I still have to be confirmed by you guys, so I guess I shouldn't say anything until I'm actually confirmed. But it'll be an honor to take over for Ken. I'd hate to see him leave, and wasn't part of my plan to become the chief of police, but my plans have changed, and I will accept the challenge. I think we have a great department, and if it weren't for the men and women of the department, if they weren't of such a high quality, it actually makes it easy. It was an easy decision for me because of the people that we have working here. So I look forward to working with you guys as well as the administration, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you. And it looks like I do have a question from Member Allard.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Chief McCoy, we've talked several times, and there seems to be a bit of misinformation out in the public on maybe why you're retiring. And I was wondering if you could address that for the public.
No, I won't be addressing that at this time. I'll be making an announcement here in the near future, but for now, I'm been blessed to serve this city, and I'm looking forward to new opportunities. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Weddleton.
Well, thanks to either Chief McCoy or Curl. You know, at the recent academy, we had 10 graduates, and apparently in the current academy, there's 13, and likely, you know, that people drop out, so we may just get 10 more. So that puts us in the time in a year 20 short. So, and that's significant. Do you maybe just talk about that? I mean, what's our future look like, and how can we remedy that?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. Mr. Weddleton, this isn't a unique situation to APD. Law enforcement agencies all across the country right now are really struggling with recruiting, and we're no different here. And so we really have to look at our practices, and we're probably going to have to really look to get professional assistance in the recruiting realm to draw qualified candidates to this profession, and we all recognize the profession has really been under the microscope for the last few years, and we ask more and more and more of our police officers, and so it's a tough job, and so we really need to look at what we're doing to attract the best candidates for this line of work, and again, we're competing with not only agencies here in Alaska, but agencies nationwide, especially in this day and age. Officers are very mobile, and they can move to different opportunities as they arise. So it's something that we're constantly evaluating, and that we're going to have to really take a hard look at to see what more we can do to attract people to want to get into this profession, which is again a very honorable profession, and I'm very proud of the quality of officers that we have here at APD, and that's something that I've definitely refused to lower our standards to help bring those numbers up. We want to remain with the highest quality of police officers, and so it's definitely a challenge to keep our numbers filled. But it's something we're constantly looking at and evaluating.
Can I follow up briefly?
Yes.
Yeah. So appreciate that. So, but we will be 20 people down, officers down at some point, and we made a lot of sacrifices as a city to move funds to the police to just increase it 100 something officers, and now we want to hang on to that. So what adjustments happen at the department when we're down 20? I mean, it's like the traffic unit goes away until we get back up. I mean, just as an example, what would be the impact?
So there would definitely be an impact at some point if we found ourselves in a position where we weren't able to adequately, staff our patrol beats, which is our emergency response capability is our primary function. So, if we got to the point where our staffing was diminished, we would have to start looking at specialty teams and specialty units to start to eliminate and redeploy those resources to patrol, to emergency response. And again, we haven't got to that point here before. Our staffing numbers are good. We're able to fulfill our primary function while maintaining our specialty teams. But if it were to get to dire straits, that's how we would have to approach it. We would have to start eliminating specialty teams and redeploying those resources to patrol. And again, some of the things we're seeing that's caused this situation It's one of the largest is our defined benefit retirement system. When I got hired 27 years ago, there was a defined benefit pension plan where you all knew you had me for at least 20 years once I signed up. We don't have that anymore. So what we're seeing now are officers who've reached retirement age leaving, and we're also seeing younger officers who are very mobile, very portable, with no pension plan tying them here, leave for other opportunities or other departments, and really, just random, life change reasons. It's not necessarily leaving for another police department, maybe relocating to be closer to family or other opportunities or challenges. So we're really losing officers from both ends, from retirement and just the portability of our younger officers.
Great, thank you.
Yep. One more question, brief question from Ms. LaFrance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief, for being here today. I just wanted to follow up on the staffing and what has been like the impact for recruiting dispatchers, and where are you at in terms of that staffing level? And then just to the chair, we may want to consider doing another resolution of support to the legislature. I think we've done 2 before concerning the defined benefits for police officers or public safety officers. Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
Sure, great, and thank you for that question. So our non-sworn staffing, we're looking pretty good in that category. Our dispatch center is nearly fully staffed, and we've seen great results of that. Our 911 wait times have dramatically reduced with us getting up to full staffing in dispatch, and so we're very pleased about that. We've also been able to increase our records staff. You all may recall a couple of years ago we were experiencing really large wait times for record requests. We were able to get our staffing increased there, get those positions filled, make some efficiencies in how we're doing business, and we've seen great results there also. So on the non-sworn side of the house, we're looking good. However, there are things down the road, such as body-worn cameras. If we bring our cameras online, there's going to be an increased need for video redaction and discovery to the Department of Law. And we're going to need additional non-sworn staffing to help support those efforts. So again, right now we're looking good at the non-sworn level, but there are potential need for additional resources down the road. Sworn staffing is where the challenges are.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, Chief, you want to go ahead and can continue down your list here?
Yes, so panhandling signs. So yes, we were alerted a few weeks ago that panhandling signs were being put up throughout the municipality, and we were not aware of those signs, and there was some concern that the statute on the signs was an incorrect statute, and actually a statute that had been deemed unconstitutional a few years back. So first and foremost, the police department, we're not enforcing that statute, and officers are not writing citations for that. So the signs have been put up. We were made aware of that. And I believe the legal department is looking into that and working with the administration to address how that's handled. But again, I think from a law enforcement perspective, we're aware of that statute and the unconstitutional ruling of it, and it's not being enforced by us.
Great. And Chief, I did see that Ms. Domboski joined. Ms. Domboski, do you want to speak to that point at all related to the panhandling signs? We distributed the information that was provided to us by Mr. Hess, but I also wanted to just create a space if there's any comment that you'd like to make on behalf of the administration.
Thank you for that, Assemblymember Presberg. Yeah, and actually the Department of Law is prepared to address that point.
Okay, great.
Mr. Burke is on the line, I believe.
Yeah, Member Presberg, this is Patrick Burke. We are aware of concerns related to the signs. We're addressing as needed, and will remedy if needed as soon as possible.
Okay. Great. Okay, Chief McCoy, you can go ahead and can continue down your list.
Great, thank you. And the final item of window tinting. So I believe this is related to the discussion that was had about having businesses, requiring businesses to only install legal tint. And again, I think this is something that the police department would be supportive of if businesses were encouraged to install only legal tinting, or if there was a requirement for them to notify consumers of the law prior to installation, placing some of that burden back on the businesses, I think is fair, and it would be something that the police department would be supportive of.
Yeah, thanks. And I know that Member Kennedy and I have had a discussion about this, and there's potentially something being worked on in this area. So.
Okay, and if you all need any assistance or with review of that, we can have members of our traffic unit available who can help craft that and provide whatever insight you guys need.
Great, and it looks like I do have a question from Mr. Constant.
Yeah, not exactly a question, Chief. Again, congratulations on all of the positive changes in your life. And I just want to speak before the public safety briefing is over. In some ways won't relate to you, probably be down the road and in the future, but the Assembly leadership is reviewing AMC.230.085 in the context of an ongoing conversation with members of the administration on issues related to fluoride and issues related to APD in hospitals and other issues. And so I'm not asking for any comments. I'm just putting that on the record so people know that leadership is evaluating a path forward on those matters. And it's likely that those will be coming back sometime in the not too distant future.
Thanks. And it looks like we do have another comment from Mr. Gates. Mr. Gates, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I just wanted to ask two things. Well, first was on the window tinting, and I appreciate Chief McCoy that statement of support and assistance. And I do have a project on in my queue to work on an ordinance related to that issue, and so I'll be in touch maybe before you retire, hopefully. So. And then I did have a question about the panhandling signs. Just out of curiosity, is this signs posted like on poles or something? I'm not aware of this issue, or is it persons holding signs that were distributed?
Yes, I'll take a stab at that. Yes, it's, so the issue. I'm sorry. So the issue is regarding signs that have been posted on, light poles or different areas around town, prohibiting panhandling with the old statute listed, the statute that was deemed unconstitutional.
And I know that Mr. Hess is on the line as well. Mr. Hess, did you want to chime in at all?
No, I just wanted to say that when constituents contacted me regarding the signs, I researched the code. I noted the court's ruling in November 2014, and I contacted legal, and legal is reviewing the issue. And as Mr. Burke commented, the municipality will take appropriate action if the signs need to be removed and the wording changed. That will happen. I think legal should probably have their review concluded pretty quickly.
Right. And I do, Mr. Gates, did you have a follow-up question?
No, thank you. I was just interested in the subject, and probably ask legal for an update. Thank you.
I did have a question. I'm not sure who from the administration could answer this. How many signs have we put up at this point?
Cameron, this is Amy. I don't know if Lance Wilbur is on the line. I think he was going to try to be on the line, but if Lance is on, Lance would be able to, the Director of Public Works would be able to answer that question. Okay, I don't see him, but I will get you that answer and I will let you know if I get it during this meeting. I will put it in the chat.
Super.
Member of Presbyteria, this is Patrick Burke. As I understand it, it's close to about 68 to 70 panels.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. And I do see a question in the queue from Ms. LaFrance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a couple other questions regarding the signs. The cost for each sign and putting them up, what was that? And also, did the city have to get permission or some kind of agreement from DOT to post the signs in the DOT right away or on the, I think some of them are on the signals or lights? And what was that arrangement? Thanks.
Thank you for the question through the chair, Assemblymember LaFrance. Yes, the Public Works Department did work with DOT and did get the signs approved through DOT. The cost of those signs, we can get you that information. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can certainly get you that information.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Great. Chief McCoy, anything else you'd like to share before we move on to the Anchorage Fire Department?
No, I think that's all on my list for today. So thank you.
Super. Well, thank you for your time. So we'll move on to the Anchorage Fire Department. Chief, if you'd like to begin.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Chief Stragi here. I do have some slides that I sent yesterday. Are those available to be displayed?
Kayana, are you able to put the slides up? We'll just pause for a second and see. And are you able to, oh, here we go. Oh, there's first step one. Here we go. There we go.
Okay, terrific. If we could advance to the next image. The first thing we'll talk about is the Fire Station 3 traffic study that was completed in the fourth quarter of last year. Actually in September and in October, November rather, we conducted 2 month-long data collection activities by traffic. And what you see here is just a summary of some of the data that were provided by traffic having to do with the ambulance, the truck, and the engine departing Station 3 onto Burke. And to summarize it, generally speaking, the response times during November, or correction, the waiting times at that intersection with the fire station were slightly longer in November, not by a large amount, but statistically significant, I think. The maximum wait times were generally longer in November, and quite a bit so for the code red runs. Those are the emergency responses where we're using red lights and sirens. So you can see that in September for code red, the max wait time was 18 seconds to get into traffic. In November, the maximum wait time was 56 seconds. Instances of wait times were not predominant. So about 40% of the time, there was no delay getting out of the station and into traffic. So those are just a small number of times when we did have to wait. But I suppose if you're the person that's waiting for an ambulance, that extra 56 seconds could be significant in your case. Surprisingly, I found it interesting that there were quite a few, quite a bit fewer instances of hard braking or erratic responses in November than in September. And so I guess you could speculate that drivers were being more cautious in November. It would be pure speculation. But in any case, you can see that in September, there were a total of 13 instances of hard braking and erratic encounters with drivers. And in November, it was just 4. So I found that a little bit surprising. What does all this mean? The voters approved bond language that would about $500,000 to install a signal at that location. The administration, will be discussing these data tomorrow and rendering a recommendation from that, I believe. It's my opinion going into it, and without the benefit of that further discussion, that the cost of a full-on traffic signal is not justified by these numbers. However, there are much less expensive alternatives, including a traffic controller, a signal controller that the firefighters and EMTs and paramedics could operate, which I think would properly honor the voters' intent, and I think that will be my recommendation coming out of tomorrow's meeting. I'll pause here for any questions.
Chief, I actually do have a question for you from Member Rivera. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief, for the review of the traffic data. I appreciate your continued push to see a resolution to this issue. I think as both Ms. Zolotel and I have stated in previous months' committee meetings, this is a big issue for the Airport Heights community, and in particular, the Community Council follows close attention to this. So I'm wondering if after the administration meets and makes their determination on the solution to this issue, if someone from the fire department or from the administration would be willing to either at a community council meeting or at a separate meeting with the community council leadership to just review how you made your determination.
Yes, Assemblymember Rivera, thank you for that question through the chair. Absolutely, yes. With enthusiasm, I'd be happy to meet with the community council. I've engaged with Mr. Potter and others from the community council, and certainly I think they would be very interested in this.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, sure. That's all the questions I see, so you can continue, sir.
Okay, we can move on to the next topic. I have 3 slides talking about the fire department's overtime. If we can advance to the next slide. This is a summary of total payroll codes from the entirety of last calendar year, 2021. It's a little bit complicated, but a couple of things stand out. One is that COVID-related time off accounts for just about 3% of our overall payroll codes throughout last year. Sick leave was just under 13% of our total payroll. The biggest, of course, was scheduled time off, which is 34%. So this is not atypical from what I can gather from prior years. If we go to the next slide, we'll see what the impact on overtime is. And again, here COVID resulted in about 4% of our total overtime spend was for COVID-related reasons. The biggest amount of overtime was just basic callback, 66% for general callback, and another 14% for our ambulances, for about 70%. So most of The overtime is accounted for by time off that we provide for our employees. About 7%, 6.7, you can see at the second to the last line, that would be for other non-operational areas of the fire department. So things like dispatch and the shop and so forth. And next slide, please. And then this slide relates to our apparatus closures. This is the routine that we began in the fourth quarter, beginning October 1st of 2021, as an effort to begin managing to our overtime budget. This had not previously been done ever before. And here's the total results. We saved, or we avoided paying overtime to the amount of about $149,000. So that is about what we predicted. I think we estimated that we could manage between $70,000 and $150,000 reduction in overtime during the fourth quarter, and that's basically what we achieved. So we avoided, we had apparatus unstaffed for about 2,500 hours total during the last quarter. We still spent $417,000 during that same period on overtime. So this, we're not attempting or proposing to eliminate overtime. We're just trying to reduce it. And so the savings represents about 26% of our overall overtime spend. So what leads to that? There were 34 instances, 34 shifts of COVID call out during that fourth quarter, 84 instances of sick calls during that same amount of time. And I'll pause there for questions before we move on to the next topic.
It does not look like there are any questions for you at this point. There is a comment by Ms. Demboski. I know it's a little bit of a topic that was reviewed earlier, but Ms. Demboski, will you mind just reading into the record your comment on the chat so we have it?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Perez-Verdia. There are 68 panels at 20 various intersections. Costs for the panhandling panels were $8,689, and this information was provided to me by the Public Works Director. The cost includes labor, equipment, and materials.
Thank you. And it does look like we have a question for you, Chief, from Mr. Weddleton.
Thank you. So it's just looking at this. So on when you're on overtime management, so you say it says, so this is fourth quarter, and there were 6,000 something hours of overtime in the fourth quarter. So is that the total overtime for the fourth quarter?
That is I believe that number is the operational overtime. So that would be just fire and EMS units. That would exclude dispatch, the shop, fire prevention, and other areas. I think that number is correct.
Okay, because then flipping up to the previous slide, the overtime cumulative for the entire year, you've got about 60,000 hours. So it just seems odd that in that one quarter, the fourth quarter was only 10% of those, of the whole year. Is that normal?
I'm not entirely sure because this is my first year here in a long time. But what I can do is generalize and say that the fourth quarter of the year is typically a much lower overtime. There's much less overtime than there is during the summer months. So from May to August is when we really accrue the largest amount. And so you'll see this percentage of savings, that number in the summer will be a much smaller number because it'll be relatively a much smaller component of our total overtime.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I guess I'd heard that summertime out, people out fishing. So, okay. Thank you.
And Chief, I do have another question for you from Mr. Constant.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up to that you can get back to us on, because I'm sure you don't have this, but can you get us the total number of staff hours on the EMS side or the emergency and fire for a given year when you have an opportunity?
Yes, Assemblymember Constant, through the chair, I will be able to produce that pretty readily. Total number of fire and EMS hours over the course of a year.
Yep, thank you.
Great. And Chief, I don't see any other questions at this point, so you can continue to move forward.
Okay, we can jump ahead to the next slide, please. This is our last slide for today. Just an update on our hiring. I reported to you previously that we had extended 30 job offers. All 30 accepted. Since then, 3 have screened out and 1 has dropped out due to a change in circumstances. So we're down to 26 new firefighters. They will begin next Thursday for the Fire Academy. In keeping with our 2022 operating budget proposal, we have trimmed the length of the academy and the staff that will be leading it. So we'll be ending on March 28th, which is earlier than we normally would. From there, though, the hirees that are not medically trained will stay on and complete another 5 weeks or so of EMT training, which will go to, they'll eventually graduate on May 17th. So we'll be staggering their graduation based on the level of medical training that they come to us with. And I think I reported to you previously that 20% of the 30 were identified themselves as minorities. 70% of the 30 had college degrees. 16 are EMTs and 3 were paramedics, and none were women. And that concludes my report, unless there are questions.
Thank you, Chief. It does not look like there are any questions at this time. So thank you for your time and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to hand it over to Sarah. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I have a few items for you today. The first one is a trial update. We have 104 cases on trial call today, which from that 104, some cases will get to go to trial next week for the first time in months. The court is not currently anticipating any more suspensions. So out of the 104 cases, the most that can go at a time in the district court building at the Boney Courthouse is 3 cases. So I hope that gives an idea of, working on the backlog will take a while, but that's okay. And we are ready for it and we're pretty excited. Any questions on that? No. The next item is body-worn cameras. I realized that it wasn't on the APD update today, but there have been conversations just about the pacing of when body-worn cameras will actually be on the streets and being used. And I just wanted to bring up and alert this body that even once the technology is in place for APD, there will be a secondary issue downstream, which is that my office will need to get technology in place, and staffing to take that data evidence and distribute it to defendants as discovery, which is required by law. So that may add time onto the end of the process in terms of how long it takes to get those body-worn cameras actually being used in the street for law enforcement, because we simply can't use them for law enforcement purposes if we can't get the discovery to the defendants. So I just wanted you to be aware of that sort of at the beginning.
So Sarah, if I could just interrupt you for a second, and I'll just interject briefly that I did have a conversation for the committee's information with the chair. She's now the vice chair of the Public Safety Commission, and we are planning a joint meeting later this month, date to be confirmed soon, that would allow us to again review the policy and again go through public comment and get feedback from the Department of Law and others. So that's moving forward. But I guess my question for you and potentially Mr. Burke, who's on the phone, is who's on the line is if from what I understand from the police department, once this policy is finalized, equipment's going to be ordered, training is going to begin, and there is an interest in moving forward on this as quickly as possible in terms of getting these on the street. What actions need to be taken to prepare for the infrastructure necessary to get the areas that you're talking about ready? And I guess I mean, you may not be able to answer it all right now, but this may be something we need to sort of pull out and have a separate meeting on specifically, so we have a sense of cost and staffing and all of that. But has that work began at all in terms of outlining how many staff, what the cost would be, what the technology would be required? Have you seen any of that developed so far?
So what's really going to drive the amount of staffing and the amount and the cost and and what software we're going to use on our end is really all determined by which which software is chosen by APD. So the second they have chosen the technology, we can begin to figure out our different options on our end for how our technology will interact with their technology. And we can start estimating things like server size and how many staff do we need to download the information and what's the best software to use, all those items. So that's sort of the trigger point at which we can go into high gear and try to figure out some of those questions. But it will be a matter of money for server space, probably, maybe money for software, maybe money for some hardware for our secretaries to have computers that can handle the speed of downloads, and then just the time to manage that much data.
Yeah. And I don't know if Chief McCoy is still on, but that's a question I don't know the answer to. Chief, do we have you or has the administration selected the software that's going to be used for the body cameras yet?
No, so we haven't finalized the vendor yet. We definitely wanted to get through the policy first before we really made a commitment there. But we've started that process, and we feel like we would be able to, in a relatively short amount of time, make that selection and start the acquisition process. But part of that next phase, once we're through the policy, is all of the back-end technical work that has to be done. And that's where the Municipal Department of Law, the State Department of Law, our IT section, our property and evidence and records, all will need to get in the same room and really discuss and look at how the process of discovery will work, and where will the technology and footage be housed, and will it be cloud storage, will it be on-site servers, those types of technical things that we're really gonna have to work our way through. And so there will be some challenges there, but nothing insurmountable. There will probably be a need for additional staffing resources here at APD and at the Department of Law to help with this new work product that's going to be generated. When you think about it, when we have 250 cops running around with cameras recording 24/7, it's going to be a little bit more of a workload. But again, nothing insurmountable. We'll be able to figure out what the needs are, outline it, and make a request for additional resources to ensure we're able to accomplish this. So that's the next phase. We're just trying to get through the policy right now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Okay, Sarah, you want to continue on your list?
Yes, the next item is very exciting for me. I want to introduce to the committee two people. The first one is Travers Gee, who has replaced Aaron Bradley as the Deputy Municipal Prosecutor for our General Trial Unit. So General Trial handles a lot of DUIs, non-domestic violence assaults, and all the property crimes. and some other things, but those are the big ones for our office. So Erin Bradley was my formal deputy municipal prosecutor, and she left us to go to the state. She had a great opportunity. We wish her well. And so Travers is replacing her, but he is just going to be doing the general trial part of our caseload. And Travers, I don't know if you wanted to wave or say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be introduced to you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And the other person is Monica Elkington. This is very exciting. The mayor has created a new position, a deputy municipal prosecutor for the domestic violence unit. So her job is going to be to work with our DV attorneys to really strengthen that unit. It's exciting for both units because it provides leadership in DV, which wasn't there before, and it gives general trial leadership the chance to really focus on the issues that come along with property crimes and DUIs in more depth. Monica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. Hi, yeah, we're very excited about this and really kind of articulating that there's kind of different skills needed for different kinds of crimes here, and also be working with Sarah and that our prosecution leadership team is now 3 instead of 2. So we're very excited about that.
That's very exciting. And Sarah, I do have a question or a comment from Mr. Weddleton. Mr. Weddleton?
Thanks. So we had, as I understand, at some point in the last number of years, put, I think, some APT detectives in with the state's domestic violence prosecuting team to help them get a caseload, because we do them as misdemeanors, and my understanding is state wasn't taking them, so we could only prosecute as misdemeanors, even though they hit a certain level where it should be a felony. And are we still helping out at the state level? Or maybe you could just fill in the whole process. So we can do it at the misdemeanor level better now, but are we getting them when they get repetitive, you know, up to the felony level?
So we still have 2 officers over at the DA's office. There is a cross-designated position over at the DA's office, which is supposed to be someone who works for the city, however, is stationed there to really handle the recidivist assault crimes. However, we have not been able to fill that spot. So it is currently vacant, unfortunately. So I don't know if, I don't want to put Monica on the spot, but I'm going to. I don't know if she wants to address if she's seen, how she's seen the recidivist assaults from the state being handled.
Yeah, so if you commit a third assault within a certain number of years, then it is a felony. It's a felony recidivist assault. Same with a DUI. If you commit a third DUI within a certain number of years, that is automatically a felony, even if it is a minor assault or a minor DUI. We routinely send the DUIs that are felonies to the state, and they accept them as felonies. For assaults, we also often try to send them to the state, but then there are ones that the state does not accept and that we have to take back and prosecute here, even though we believe it should be a felony. We aren't authorized under municipal code to prosecute felonies, so the max that they can get on what we would consider a felony case is still a misdemeanor sentence, which is a maximum of 1 year in jail. So we have to prosecute it as a felony, or we have to prosecute it as a misdemeanor, even though we believe it's felony conduct, because we are not empowered to prosecute felonies. So there are some of those cases that the state sends back to us. We also refer cases both between the city and the state and the federal at the Department of Justice. We have a cross-designated prosecutor at the Department of Justice as well, to handle cases that we are coordinating with the feds. So I know that's a position that has been cross-designated there, and that one's an easier to fill position than the cross-designated one at the state. So yeah, the state one has been vacant for a few years. So we don't currently have a prosecutor over there that is a municipal employee. It would be great if we did, and we've had people there in the past, but we don't right now. And so when the state sends us those, or when we send cases to the state, then each individual agency is really looking at it and our ability to prosecute on our own.
Thank you, Monica.
Great, thank you.
Another, I also just I forgot to mention just Travers and Monica. Travers has been with us since he started at the city in 2013. So he's been doing this good work for quite a while. And so it's a pleasure to have him get to enter the leadership role. And Monica came to us actually from the civil department, from the municipal attorney's office. And she's been with us in criminal for 2 years, but she also had prior criminal experience before she was with civil. So I'm just thrilled to have the expertise and leadership here. So,
well, welcome to both of you. And I know I'm assuming based on the previous conversation we were having, Chief McCoy would like to weigh in. Chief.
Great, thank you. And through the chair to Mr. Weddleton, I thought I heard you ask about APD officers assigned to this effort. Was that correct?
That was my question. I thought I heard that there were 2 officers at the DA's office, and I understood that as APD, but maybe that's wrong.
No, you're correct. First of all, I'm very excited to see the Municipal Prosecutor's Office putting Monica in this leadership role to address domestic violence. And here at APD, domestic violence, crimes against children, sexual assault have always been priorities for us. And we've devoted lots of resources to addressing those crimes in our community. So in regards to domestic violence, we've had officers assigned to those duties for nearly 20 years. We've had 2 officers that are assigned to the Municipal Prosecutor's Office to help with domestic violence cases. We also have 2 officers assigned to our Warrants Division who go out and serve restraining orders and do compliance checks. So we've had those 4 officers doing this work for many, many years. A few years ago, we added 2 additional officers to the DA's office to help shepherd our cases, our felony cases that are over at the DA's office with follow-up and so forth. So really important work. Like I said, we've devoted lots of resources to it throughout the years, and I'm really pleased to see Monica stepping into this role, and it's only going to be a force multiplier for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Sarah, anything else from you? Oh, wait a minute. Before you do it, I have someone in the queue, Mr. Constant.
Yeah, just a quick follow-on to that, and maybe I misremember, but I thought also we were dedicating some staff to the state. Didn't we also, part of the MOU, offer 2 members of APD to serve the state of Alaska? And are we doing that? Is that these 4 in addition to these 4? And if so, and they're not filling that position, how are we balancing that equation?
So through the chair, Mr. Constant, so you're correct. So we have a total of 4 that are working municipal domestic violence cases. And we have 2 additional, so a total of 6, but 2 additional that are at the state district attorney's office doing that same type of work. And so I believe the question of positions not being staffed, I think those were attorney positions, not police officers.
Right, but the reason we dedicated the police officers was so they would dedicate a prosecutor. And if that position is unfilled and we are continuing to apply municipal resources to their workload, then we have a problem, right? The original MOU, I thought, was an agreement that we would provide enforcement investigation to them and they would provide prosecution. And so I won't hound this, but I hope the municipal prosecutor will investigate and figure this out, because it seems like the equation is out of balance and we're giving but not receiving.
So Brittany and I have actually done a fair number of interviews. What's tricky about that position, and I completely hear your concerns through the chair, Mr. Constant, and it does deserve further discussion, which we can do. it's a tricky one to fill because it needs to be someone with, we both have to approve that person, and it needs to be someone with grand jury experience. They don't want to put, a brand new prosecutor in there, and we probably don't either. The other problem is our people in our office who are extremely experienced in domestic violence. It's not always ideal for our department to send someone over there either and lose that person here. So there's a lot of issues that make it kind of a tricky one to fill, just in terms of hiring and expertise and knowledge base. But I am committed to continuing to try to fill it. But thank you for the question, and we will definitely be talking about that further.
And one age-old axiom proves itself true again. APD is always there.
Yes.
And member Constant, this is Patrick Burke, and just so you know, Brittany and I worked together when I first started as a prosecutor, back in 2009. So I have a great relationship with Brittany, and that is an issue that I continue to push her on. Right now, there's a shortage of attorneys, and there are a number of positions that are unfilled, both with the municipal prosecutor's office and with the criminal division for the state of Alaska. So those conversations are ongoing, and it's not for lack of effort or will so much as it is that we're trying to fill our ranks before we send somebody over to live, at the district attorney's office full time.
Okay, well, that's good. I just want to make sure we have a fair deal.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Sarah, anything else you'd like to add on your report?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to your new teammates. And we will move forward in our agenda. If there are no other items from members, we will move into our audience participation section, seeing that there's no new business or old business listed on our agenda. So this is where the public gets to come forward and speak. You will need to use *6 to unmute yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. I will set a timer, and you'll hear a chime when your timer is up. And please start with sharing your name for the record. So we'll just go first come, first serve. Anyone from the public at this point who would like to speak? Sometimes it can take a minute to get off mute, so I'll just give you a little more time. Anybody from the public at this point who would like to speak?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Quipo Miramontes, and I'm with the Alaska Native Justice Center.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wanting to know more about what will be done with the homelessness and the people. I've heard very briefly about working with partners, and I just want to know how does that look like?
So just for your information, at this point, the way this works is you can ask the questions that we have, and we'll certainly note your questions. But in this part of it, we normally don't respond. It's just your opportunity to sort of share any information and ask any questions you have, and we'll note them for you, and respond to them at a different time.
Okay, then that's all I have.
That was your question? Okay, great. And I've written it down as well. And if you want to reach out to me by email, my email is on the Assembly website. I'm happy to get an answer for your question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. Does anyone else at this point want to speak from the public? Okay, it looks like no one at this point wants to speak, and I don't see any other people in the queue from members. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for your time today. I know everybody is very busy, and really appreciate the updates for today. Have a great day. I adjourn this meeting at what time is it? 12:14 p.m. Thank you, everyone.